Let's talk about Zeus, the king of the gods, the ruler of the sky, and philanderer. Zeus was both revered for his ability to judge wisely, while at the same time feared for his unpredictable anger by both mortals and gods alike. So when you think of Zeus as a doting father and a loyal husband, like in the Disney version of Hercules, it couldn't be farther from the truth. Regardless of the accuracy to the original myth, Hercules is still one of my favorite movies, and I think that both versions have something to teach us. However, for this video, we are going to focus on the original myth. Hello and welcome back. If you're new to the channel, my name is Jada. In this series, we're diving into the original Greek myths to help us understand and explore our inner selves. If you haven't watched the introduction video yet, I'm gonna link it up above and down below. It's gonna give you a deeper explanation on how these archetypes really work and what the purpose of this series is. Let's first look at the different myths involving Zeus. Him being one of the major characters of Greek mythology has a lot of myths surrounding him or having him as the main character. One of the more famous one definitely is him overthrowing his father and leading the other gods to revolt against the Titans to take over Mount Olympus. This myth basically represents one of Zeus' major characteristics, that of leadership. So this myth basically shows us how when we tap into the archetype of Zeus, we tap into our essence of a leadership, in taking charge, leading other people, and basically bringing a new vision to life. Another big part of his myth were his countless affairs. He was constantly on and about, and he had multiple offspring. Now the really interesting part about this one is that the offsprings basically do not represent his sexual prowess or his uncontrollable desire or lust. It's actually about the moment that Zeus interacted with a woman and impregnated her, a new child was born, and that child basically represents an idea, a vision. So depending on what Zeus or whom Zeus touched on, a different creation was born, something new was born, and this is basically one of his characteristics, that ability to create something new and convince the other party to take part in that new creation, which is again is a skill when it comes to leadership, the charismatic ability to convince someone of one's cause, because Zeus basically did not have any scruples to make sure he would get his conquests, like either if it was by deception, by sweet talking them into the union, or even by simple force. Another main part is that he was basically the enforcer of the law. He was the judge, the one who had to decide who gets punished, who not, and how they get punished. As I mentioned in the beginning, Zeus at the same time was also feared by his fellow gods and even by the mortals because of his anger issues. And there lies, here we can already see like the duality of the Zeus archetype. On one side, he was very just, he was very charismatic, he was that leader that would lead people into a new reality, into a new era basically. On the other side, he was prone to a superiority complex. So depending on how he was feeling, if someone set him off the wrong way, he could get in a fit of rage and end up judging unjustly. So basically he would misuse his position of power to basically enforce his own law that wasn't based on justice and fairness anymore, but on his own personal opinion. So this should already give you a good idea on what this Zeus archetype is about. It's about taking charge, being the leader, moving things forward, but also about being fair and just. So you can think of him as a CEO who has to run a company or even a president. That's the archetype of Zeus. A real-life example who embodies this archetype very strongly in a positive way would, for example, be Nelson Mandela. He had that leadership quality, having that vision and, talking to people in a way that they would engage him and believe in him and follow him. So on the positive side, the Zeus inside of us is all about being able to take charge, being charismatic and convince others of our cause, making decisions, the ability to articulate our vision to others, to lead people with purpose and meaning, and to make judgments in a just and fair way. So balanced Zeus is all about the ability to make decisions, to assert ourselves, to articulate our vision in a way that is understandable and engaging for the other. An overactive Zeus can, on the other hand, lead to arrogance, controlling tendencies, and an excessive need for power and to assert oneself over others. While a suppressed Zeus inside of us can lead to the inability to make decisions, trying to avoid to be in the spotlight and take the lead, to voice one's own boundaries, and not even for oneself, but maybe even for a group, to set boundaries, or the lack of ability to articulate them in an effective way. One of the probably best way to balance out an overactive Zeus is humbleness. Because if you think about it, Zeus was the ruler of gods. He was on top of Mount Olympus. So he looked down at people, and it's about equaling out this balance of feeling like we are superior to someone else or something else. So by doing things that kind of literally take you off your high horse and brings you on eye level with people will help you to counteract if the archetype Zeus inside of you is acting out too much. Another great way to do that, especially if you are, for example, a business owner, is do the job that your lowest paid employee is doing. By doing that, you're basically forcing yourself off your high horse to get into perspective and basically tap into the ability to judge fair and justly again. Because if you're at the top of the chain and you're constantly telling people what to do, but you've never experienced what you're telling people to do, it can become challenging to make a just and fair decision. So by basically deciding on tapping into those areas where you're making a judgment, experience those firsthand, you increase the possibility or the likelihood of being able to make a just and fair decision. If on the other side you're having a really hard time to tapping into the energy of Zeus and asserting your leadership energy, it's basically about practicing it. It's about consciously deciding of stepping up, raising your hand if someone asks to do something. It's like, okay, we want to do this, and you're going to raise your hand and be like, yes, I'm going to do it. That kind of, or if there is a meeting and you're having discussion about something and you're having this thought of a different perspective on why it might potentially not work, it's about taking those opportunities and speaking up and explaining your point. And it is a little different from calming down an overactive Zeus instead of having to strengthen him, because whenever you have to strengthen something, it means you have to practice it. So it's not so much about letting go, for example, an overactive Zeus, it's about letting go a little bit and stepping back, while with an underactive or a suppressed Zeus, it's about stepping up, and that moment of stepping up that feels like a practice, and in the beginning it can be very challenging. But if you're really having struggle with asserting yourself and taking charge, this is the way to go. So I want you to think about Zeus. How do you feel about that archetype? Does it resonate with you? Did you maybe notice some tendency that you have in an overactive or a suppressed Zeus that might be worth to take a look at? Or is it something that you feel very comfortable and at ease with? Simple thing that you can do is just take out your journal and start writing down whatever came to mind throughout this video. Like, how did you feel about it? What are thoughts? What are things that you might want to explore? And just basically decide intuitively if this needs a closer look. And just be aware of it even in your day-to-day activities. Like, when are moments that you are consciously tapping into your Zeus, where it's like, okay, I'm not your spouse anymore, I'm the leader of the company right now. So you're switching energy to access that archetype to achieve a certain result. So let me know what you think of Zeus and how it resonates with you. I would really love to know. Otherwise, this is it for the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.